VC market has gone through dramatic changes over the past few years, from a market that was flush with capital and cash to one that now where all the cash and the capital has moved out of the system and there's much less liquidity. And in fact, because of that, secondary solutions are becoming a more important part of the venture capital market.
There is sort of a misconception in the market right now that it's not the best time to sell. It really depends on when you invested in the company.
Investors would be surprised that in many cases they got in very early to companies at relatively low valuations, and even though valuations and prices are down, they can actually make a very nice return on the secondary market relative to where they invested.
Secondary can benefit basically everybody across the ecosystem.
It's a win for the seller because in a lot of cases, especially in a market that's declined, they're finding that way too much of their capital is allocated to some private companies that they may have to continue to fund in order to keep their holdings. And they'd love to be able to find some way to reduce their exposure. It's a win for the venture funds that either want to sell some of their holdings and return capital to their investors at a time when the public markets are largely closed, or there are investors who would love to find somebody who can meet those capital calls on time, but also be a potential investor longer term. By buying the secondary, we build a relationship with the company and we also leave reserves for follow-on investments in those same companies.
As for angel investors, it makes a ton of sense to be able to take that capital and finance new companies and go through that cycle again and again and again.
For founders, secondaries are a credible way to get some personal liquidity and alleviate financial pressures. It will allow you to focus 100% on your company.
It's also a benefit for former employees who can sell all or a portion of their shares and use that capital to invest in their new ventures.
It's a win-win-win for everybody who's involved in the transactions.
From my experience, the fund you choose is one of the most important decisions. It can make or break your company.
There are a few issues when you're doing secondary transactions, knowing you're going to get the deal done. I think that's extremely important, that there's certainty of getting the transaction done. So I think anybody who is permitting a secondary, either in their company or in their fund, should be asking the question, do these people get the deal done? Do they get it done quickly? Do they get it done quietly? And second, what happens when they're my partner? Are they going to help me? Are they going to do something to make my business or fund or company more effective company? And that's what we try to bring to the table. We have a value-added services team that is really active in trying to get as many of the companies to meet as many potential customers as they possibly can. We've generated over 270 purchase orders, over $200 million in revenue for companies, and we do that as a free service. We're very proud of the fact that we've never signed a term sheet on a secondary deal that we either renegotiated or backed off of.
The reason to work with Vintage is because you believe that you can get a good price with a great partner that you trust.